So we just put out a video on the interview with Mercules, but I do have some clarifications because Chris Proctor was actually on the firing range this past week. By the way, links to all of this will be in the description below. This is purely a breakdown, so if you're looking to actually get the full interview, feel free to check out those links. With that being said, we made some comments yesterday about Lord of Wolves in our original interview breakdown. Mercules actually commented on Twitter and said, great summary of the show, but I do want to clarify though, we're not changing Lord of Wolves to be a pulse rifle. It will still be a shotgun, and you put that in quotes, as far as its label and ammo use. I was just commenting that at its base level, it acts like a high damage, low range pulse rifle, which is true. So just some clarification on Lord of Wolves. But jumping into Chris Proctor and the interview that he had this past week, he actually said that Bungie is pretty sure, in quotes, that the Lord of Wolves change will lower its PvP usage for good, and it will no longer be a problem. There's some speculation of whether or not the Lord of Wolves change is actually going to buff it. I'm on the fence still, man. I'm just letting you know. Release of the Wolves will only shoot 5 rounds at a time now. And what makes that version of Lord of Wolves bad is it shooting 10 rounds, making it very unmanageable. Regardless, it does seem like Lord of Wolves will be getting nerfed, and this won't be a buff inside of PvP. Moving on, Glaive Performance was brought up, and most notably, Glaive Performance in PvP being worrisome. Essentially, a 75% damage resist with the shield up is a lot of damage resist. Granted, Bungie did say that they haven't really seen a major increase in usage inside of PvP, but with the future change to hit registration coming relatively soon, they're definitely looking at the damage resistant PvP. I will say this, guys, Glaives, man, if you master them, are very, very good inside of PvP. Like stupid good. I think you're going to see an uptick in people using them. Now, Chris Proctor also brought up exotic catalysts giving full auto to guns. Essentially things like Vigilance Wing, Traveler's Chosen, No Time to Explain. We know that full auto is going to be rolling out for all of our weapons. It will actually be a setting and not necessarily a mod anymore or even a catalyst feature. Chris stated though that the full auto portion of these catalysts will change and be replaced with, in quotes, something else. Granted though, full auto perks on legendary weapons will not be replaced with something else. So it sounds like Vigilance Wings, Traveler's Chosen, and No Time to Explain could all be getting reworks in their exotic catalysts. And let me just point out, all 3 of those weapons are very, very good at base. So they don't need a lot more help. But if we turn around and rework those catalysts, just gonna get nastier. Origin traits were also brought up, and essentially the origin trait changes to Iron Banner and Gambit traits will be updated retroactively to all weapons. So you're not going to have to regrind to get specific roles anymore with the updated origin traits. So if you already got them, perfect. Granted though, they did mention you will have to regrind for new origin traits. More specifically, Dares of Eternity weapons. That God roll BXR that you got that you love, it's about to have an origin trait now. And depending on how nasty that trait is, you're probably going to want to regrind it all over again. That's the thing about the grind, man. It never stops. Now they mentioned trace rifles, and more specifically, Bungie is planning on taking a pass at trace rifles. They want to adjust their ease of use in PvP, and they believe they aren't effective enough in their role. Now, they stated that they don't see it overtaking fusion rifles or shotguns, and they don't really want to touch their damage output, just overall ease of use. And I will say the damage output for trace rifles is already really, really good. It just needs more ease of use. I mean, most of them sit around a 0.77 TTK value. If people remember, when Wave Splitter first came out, it was like one of the most dominant weapons in Forsaken. Just a lot of people didn't have it because A, it was PS4 exclusive, and B, everything was so RNG based, you probably didn't even have the weapon drop for you, which was my case. But it was definitely melting people inside of Crucible for sure. Now, Kevin Giannis was the one who actually made the BXR. Just a little fun note here, guys. He was very passionate about this project, and so of course they passed off the gun to him. By the way, big shout out to Kevin. Remember, everybody gave this guy heat for no Twilight Garrison, and believe me, I was sad about it. But he did mention that Titans were going to get an even better movement ability, and we sure are. At least from what we've read, it sounds beautiful. Now, talk of No Land Beyond was brought up, and it always seems to get brought up, right? But they stated they are not bringing No Land Beyond back. Special ammo economy and PvP would have to be completely redesigned before they ever think about bringing back No Land Beyond, Icebreaker, or Invective. And again, those weapons, Icebreaker and Invective, actually made ammo for the guns, which was pretty awesome. And No Land Beyond used primary ammo, but can still, of course, get a headshot kill with one headshot. And it was also really easy to use. You had a lot of people that would actually pair No Land Beyond with a shotgun. Sort of a glass cannon build, but in the right hands was very effective. Now, there are plans to address how hard it is to craft Adept raid weapons, and they say that they are not happy with how the system works now. Granted though, do not expect these changes next season, but they do have plans in mind. And there is a lot of truth to that. No one's really going out of their way to get that God roll Adept Insidious when you can just craft an Insidious from the base raid and it be phenomenal. Now, Concussion Grenades on grenade launchers are getting phased out, but they won't be removed from your weapons that currently have them. It just won't roll on future grenade launchers. And at the end of the day, guys, blinding grenades on on grenade launchers is so much better. Concussion really only targets that one target you make contact with, whereas blinding grenades has a much wider spread in its effect, despite, of course, that blast radius being abysmal. Now, regarding the TWAB note, in quotes, addressing sniper ability to shoot through flinch, Bungie says they don't want attempting to snipe through flinch to be the smart play, and it never really is. It's the lucky play. It's the, oh wow, that gave me the headshot. And dude, it happens to me all the time. This is just one of those areas that I feel like Bungie is just never able to really find a solution. It's almost like shotgun spread. It's random. Suddenly having your sniper rifle give you the headshot kill randomly through flinch. Random. Some would say skill though, whatever. But Chris did continue and state that flinch will flinch you away from a target that you're aiming at, but sometimes getting flinch again will put your aim back on the targets. Granted, he said they have fixed this and that we're going to be seeing those changes soon. But again, this same dialogue, they've mentioned it before, almost in the exact same way. We'll see if this actually helps or not. It's not like end of the world or anything, but there is a lot more ways this season to build into flinch resist. Stability, especially. With snapshot no longer being the must-have perk on a sniper rifle, you have some folks actually using things like no distractions more. Now, Bungie also stated that they plan to tinker around with auto rifles inside of PvP because they are currently objectively outclassed by certain SMGs and certain pulse rifles at the top end. Expect some changes to even things out around season 19, but they don't want to have another auto rifle meta where they are just dominating everything. So essentially, we're never going to go back to 600s being what they were, and they were the meta. Hardlight, Suros, Gnawing Hunger was everywhere. If you had that god roll, Gilliard, you were like the most dominant player in all of PvP for like a month. They were very, very good. 600s were the best, and they did outclass everything. I don't think we're going to get back to that. I also don't think we're going to get to 450s being the most dominant thing. What I do see happening is either A, high impacts, think like half Dan, are going to become really, really good, or even like Suros in its 360 form. So essentially 360s are going to be really, really good. At the same time, Bungie may actually take this moment to satisfy two things at once. The introduction of 900 round per minute auto rifles, which I know some of you are like, Cross, that sounds nuts. It does, until you know of the auto rifle doctrine of passing. This was a Destiny 1 auto rifle. One of the best weapons in the game. It was a 900 round per minute auto rifle, an absolute bullet hose, and yes, arguably one of the most dominant weapons for almost a year. I bring this up because this can go in tandem with A, an auto rifle meta, B, new weapons being brought to us in trials or refurbished, which Bungie likes to do, and C, adds an entirely new archetype. Now, that is a much bigger task than, of course, just saying, hey, yo, Doctrine of Passing, we're just gonna make it a 720, which would arguably be easier. But I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Doctrine of Passing will be returning at some point alongside auto rifle changes. Again, Bungie likes to do things that work together when it comes to Sandbox and upcoming new weapons. Think of like the BXR, right? Lightweight pulse rifles suddenly got a buff after the BXR comes out. These things are not a coincidence. Moving on, they plan to do more craftable exotic weapons in the future. I think the entire process surrounding Osteostruga is actually pretty cool. It's also a very good SMG. The other side of things is for some folks, it's their guaranteed exotic, right? As long as it doesn't become like the norm, because, you know, Destiny, RNG, loot dropping, all that stuff, like that's part of its identity. But yeah, more craftable exotic weapons in the future, I'm down. Bungie also plans to rework some enhanced perks, and Chris actually mentioned 3 that they want to do a passover on. Those being Enhanced Unrelenting, Enhanced Explosive Light, and Enhanced Firing Lines. Be looking for those 3 traits to be adjusted in some way. Now, the final note, Bungie stated that they are touching more than 20 exotic weapons in Season 19, some small changes and some very big. Chris mentions they have a pretty fun change coming specifically to Darcy in Season 19. Incoming Darcy meta? Who knows? Regardless, that is a wide spread of changes coming to exotic weapons. Big Sandbox moves. Fellas, this game is ever changing. Guys, if you missed our first interview that covered Mercules, feel free to check out that video. And again, if you want to watch this interview completely from start to finish, links to that will be in the description below. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.